Hey, this is Joy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing a Hannukah card for Maker Forte. I am using the Slimline Layering Menorah stamp set, Muscle Car, Vega Strip, Yellowstone, Red Lyciter, and Embossing Glue ink in the Color Hive ink family. I start out by stamping the Menorah base onto white cardstock using my Misty stamping positioning tool. And I stamp that down using embossing glue ink, and I apply silver embossing powder to that, and I make sure that I get a really good coverage on that because, like I said, we are going to do an Emboss Resist technique for this entire card. With that said, when you're using your heating tool or heating gun, you want to make sure to keep it moving as to not to warp your paper, because we're not only embossing this once, but we're doing it multiple times. So the more heat that your cardstock is exposed to, the likelihood that it will warp is higher. So next I bring in the most solid portion of the flame stamp, and you're going to see that I inked up 8 of those outer flames with the Yellowstone ink. And I did that so that they were lined up with the base of the menorah. If I had done that middle stamp, that flame would have been much higher than the base. So I cleaned off my stamp really well with my Totally Awesome cloth. And then I moved the stamp down so that that flame would then be at the tip of that middle candle holder. Then I come in with the intricate detail part of the flame, and again I ink up the 8 outer flames with the red Lyciter, and I stamp those down. I clean that really well. Make sure that you always clean your reds and your yellows, or reds and oranges really well, otherwise you're gonna not be able to recover from that. And then I stamped down all of those flames. Now I am treating this with an embossing tool, anti-static powder tool, and I am using that the largest section of the flame, and I am using embossing glue, and I am inking up the 8 outer flames with the embossing glue, and then I am applying clear powder off camera. I moved it down, and then I did that center flame exactly the same that we did the first sets. Now you're going to see that I am using the 9 sentiments that look like smoke coming off of the top of the flames, and I lined those up so that they would line up with the flames, and I treated my paper with anti-static powder tool and used embossing glue, stamped that down with my Misty, and then I applied the Snow Flurries embossing powder. Now that doesn't show up until now. This is where all of the Emboss Resist is going to happen. Using a blending brush, you can use a foam applicator if you need to, or any brush that you have. It doesn't matter for this technique. And you would start blending the Muscle Car. I chose to use the Muscle Car for the top 2/3 of my card, and that's because that's where the flames would be, where the brightest part of the card would be. Now, if you wanted a darker card, you absolutely could just use one color and use Vega Strip. However, whatever makes you happy. This is kind of what was going on in my design process. Now, a little bit about Maker Forte. On November 9th, we are having a card making class at 7:30 on the Hedgehog Hollow channel. It's 1 stamp, 4 cards. On November 13th, there's an all-day Christmas card event going on that you can sign up for. November 18th is the Foiling Friday. And on February 25th through the 26th, there's the Crafter Party Virtual Retreat that you can sign up for. All of that information can be found on the Maker Forte website. Now you're going to see, back to the card, that I am using the Vega Strip, and my pad needs to be re-inked, so you're seeing that it's a little bit blotchier than what the muscle car is. What that means is that I just have to pay more attention to it, and I need to apply more ink. Or in hindsight, I should have re-inked my my pad. But again, I am just going over my paper to get a really nice blend, and you're going to see that I start to encroach upon the muscle car. Whenever I do any type of ink blending, I always go through and do at least 2 coats. That way you're going to get a smooth blend. Now, one property of a dye ink is that they dry back, so you start to see some of this uneven coverage. However, as it dries, it becomes very smooth. So don't get so involved that you forget that you can let it go and you can always come back. But here is, I believe, where I'm coming back in with the muscle car. And that's where I'm going to get the really vibrant blend on this muscle car. Like I said, if you go back and do it a second time, you're always going to get the true color, and it's going to become seamless. So no matter what kind of ink I'm using, whether it's a dye ink, meaning a color hive ink, or a distress oxide, or a pigment ink, I always go through and do at least 2 blends. Sometimes I'll even go back and do a third, depending on the coverage. Now, since this is an Emboss Resist, so that powder is like a plastic that you melt. So if you take a microfiber cloth and you buff that off, now you're bringing back the original color and all of the brilliance of all of your embossing. Off camera, I did trim this down to be 3 3/4 by 5. I backed it with double-sided adhesive foam. And of course, I am using my Barely Art glue on the back of it. You could use any wet glue. I do that just so that I have a little bit of room to slip and slide if I don't get it down even the first time. I do the exact same thing. That was the Chameleon Sparkle glitter card that I backed that with. And now I am applying that to a A2 size Eclipse black cardstock base. On the inside, I am stamping Happy Hannukah. If you had stuck with me this long, I truly appreciate you hanging out with me. Please consider liking, subscribing, and leaving me a comment below. I do really appreciate that. That makes our channel grow, and it allows you to hang out with me more often. So I do very much enjoy that. Here are the last looks at my card. I'm zooming in and out on this just so that you can see all of the detail. I hope that you enjoyed your time here, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Until next time, guys, keep crafting. Bye-bye.